We're here in New Zealand at the Business Edge Conference, of course, as we've told you before, we're here with other Christian business owners. And so I'm here now with Linda Drake, and she has a very interesting story of how God led her in a most unusual way. So Linda, welcome to our weekly video. And so tell us, where do you live and what kind of work are you involved in?
So we live in Cambridge, in the Waikato, in the middle of the North Island. We have a business that is employment relations. We've owned that business for 10 years. And recently, about 2 years ago, God said to us that it was the right time for us to purchase another business. It had been a dream of mine to run my own business separate from my husband. And God gave us the opportunity to buy that business.
And then you told me that once you got going in it, you hated it.
My dream was definitely not the dream I thought it was going to be.
And at that moment, did you question whether or not you had really heard from God?
Absolutely. I just said, God, I'm sure I didn't hear you, because this is not what I thought it was going to be like.
So you thought you were obeying God, and then things went very poorly. And of course, that was faith crushing, I'm sure, for a while.
Absolutely. I went through a lot of soul searching and looking to see whether I'd really heard from God. But I did have a sense of peace, that underlying peace that sometimes is very hard to explain. But that kept me going, knowing,
And then, so after a while, you decided you couldn't continue with this business, and God gave you some very unusual instructions as to what to do with this business, which you now hated. So what did He tell you to do?
Yeah. We went away and we were praying, and I believe God said to me to downsize and just wait for further instructions.
But not just downsize. What did you do with your employees?
We had to get rid of them. Yeah, it was really hard.
So you really put your business on ice, like it became pretty much non-active for a while.
That's right. We had a little bit of work coming through that just paid the expenses.
And so God's message was just basically shut everything down and wait. Was that the message, to wait?
To wait, yes.
And how did that feel?
That was really hard, because I'm a very active person, goal-setting person, and just to sit back and do nothing, it was like, so often I questioned God. Did I hear you right?
And didn't you actually at sometimes get very anxious or worried or fearful? Like, what are we going to do? Well, because we're just waiting? Yeah,
I panicked quite a few times. I was like, but what if we had costs coming in, and what if the work, the little bit of work that we were getting, shouldn't I be out there really promoting the business and doing stuff? But I just had to really hold true. Every time I did that, God He put obstacles in the way.
And so how long did you have to wait before things started to change?
A whole year. Yeah, a whole year.
And then what happened that things started to change?
I suppose I changed in myself. I'd gone through probably that period of beginning to really trust that I had heard God originally, and that I believe God was starting to tell me now is the time for me to look at that business completely differently. So that was the change in myself. We'd taken on this business, it was working in a certain way, and I knew I hated it. And so it was really a time of God being able to, I suppose me being open to God, to new creativity, to be able to re-look at that business in a totally different way.
So God sort of changed the direction or the emphasis of the kind of business it was.
Yes.
Okay. And so then you made those changes. Okay. And then what has happened since then?
So a whole year later, we've now, at that time where we said, yes, God, if this is what you're telling us, it's time now to get things going again. The right employee turned up basically on our doorstep to start.
On your doorstep, right. Who do you think sent that employee?
Exactly. And she's amazing. She's just perfect. And, well, not always perfect, but, it's close to. And the work has just started to flow in again, without us having to do anything.
But how do you feel about the business now in its current structure? Before you hated it, how does it feel now?
I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the kind of work that's coming in. The restructure too was more about me managing the business and not doing the actual work. And so with the new staff member we've got on board, she's able to do the work and I can go into a more management position.
Wonderful.
Which is my role. Yeah.
Now, there are viewers watching who are in business and they're in that frustration. This isn't working. I'm hating it. Or they may be in that 1 hour wait and things look awful and they've got bills and they were trusting God. They thought they had done what God had told them to do and things just aren't looking good at all. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them if they're in that holding pattern or that I hate this and I thought it was you, God? What advice would you give them?
Really try and hear what God's saying. So if he's telling you to wait and do no more, wait and do no more. Don't try and go out and do things yourself. Work through that anxiety and worry, but just hang on to what God's told you. And he will come through. He will provide you with the next step. But it is, and I know it's really hard. It was the hardest thing ever that I've had to do. Yeah, really hard.
So in other words, we can trust God because God actually is interested in our businesses. Because that's the theme that I'm picking up at all the people we've talked to here at the retreat is we can actually take God to work. He actually enjoys working with us.
He does.
So I want you to be really encouraged. So if you're frustrated with your work or you're in that holding pattern and you thought you heard from God, you have. Trust him. Talk to him. Invite him into your business. Bless your business. And so we'll talk to you again next week. But be encouraged today about work.